Serious teachers of Reddit. Did a student ever offer you sex to pass a class? If yes, how did you react and what were the further consequences? I used to teach an astronomy class which required the students to once a week, weather permitting, go outside for 2 hours to the campus observatory and point out constellations and look through the telescope. One girl in my class was pretty clever overall. She didn't like working particularly hard, so she always sat with the nerdy awkward guys who easily did all the work. She was reasonably attractive and playfully flirted with them enough to get them to basically do all her work for her. Having been in their situation in college, I quickly recognized it as an instructor. One day she asks me if the observatory would be open, to which I responded, "I don't know, because it was the middle of the day." She then sighs and says, "Maybe we could meet up at my place tonight, get a movie, and determine my grade some other way." Well, me being the suave physics grad student that I am, just stared at her expressionless, turned, and quickly walked away to the other side of the room. As I was walking away, I start hearing the guys at the table jump in on this offer and start planning to bring food and movies, as they figured this was an open invitation to the table. I have no idea what happened. I can say that I have never had a student outright say anything sexual. I had a young female student tell me that she had pictures of me on her phone and then she winked at me. And I had a few passing notes about how much they were in love with me. With that being said, I do not respond to anything like that. I just ignore it and remain professional. I've seen other teachers who will respond to that stuff and change grades or show general favoritism to the students because they like the attention. Those teachers definitely get labeled by the other staff and the administration. Another thing that I make sure of is that I am never ever alone with a student in a classroom one-on-one. It can be difficult and sometimes impossible, but it is important to try and not get in that situation. This kind of sucks because a lot of students open up to me and feel more comfortable discussing issues with me because I am a young teacher, 25, but I can't always give them individual attention because of the possibility of accusations. I do always make sure they get any help they need. Faculty member for 30 years checking in. Usually it starts as a subtle suggestion or innuendo. I play dumb, then document the hell out of it in an email to my department chair, the dean, and the sexual abuse coordinator. We are in a state that allows recording if only one party knows about it. In my office I do have a webcam and microphone that can be triggered subtly. However, most of these initial feelers happen outside my office. And of course my door stays open, and I never cover the window. False accusations are super real in the college environment between student and teacher. My local college just lost an amazing professor due to false accusations. He was fired immediately even though no real investigation took place. The accuser was a spoiled brat of a very large donor, so the school acted prematurely and worried about the donations over the teacher. Weirdly, this girl failed his class twice, and on the second time around the accusations started flying. This teacher is known to have a very hard class graduate students, but is widely loved by his students except a select few that can't manage the class. Well, in the end it was figured out that it was a false accusation, so the girl was kicked out. College lost the donation money from her father, and the college lost a great professor because he refused to come back. All this from a knee-jerk reaction from the administration over a spoiled brat's word over a well-known professor. Yes, I was a teacher in rural West Africa for a few years. I had a few students approach me and make an offer. I rejected them 100%, and had long conversations regarding how inappropriate and terrible this was. It didn't help that it was quite common for this to happen, and the same females that were approaching me were approaching the other teachers. At one of my schools, 2 girls became pregnant from teachers, which gets kinda ugly since pregnant girls are not allowed to be in school. We had faculty meetings where the principal would say verbatim, "Okay, I need to tell all the teachers not to sleep with students." And the teachers would laugh and say, "But who are we supposed to sleep with?" And everyone would chuckle and then discuss the next topic on the agenda. Using my squeaky clean alt for this one. I teach math at a major US university and usually end up with at least one lower level class each year. Like most of the replies in this thread, I have students flirt or make subtle comments fairly regularly, but one student really went above and beyond. She was doing poorly in my class with about a 65% average early in the semester. She was coming into my office hours regularly for help. She was really trying, but was still struggling with the material. I really wanted her to do well, because it was clear that she was willing to put in the work, so I didn't mind the extra time. She was a very attractive young lady and always wore tight or revealing clothes to my office hours. But that was how she seemed to dress normally, so I didn't think anything of it. She didn't really flirt much, but there were the little hand-arm touches from time to time. I kept my office door open and was on a busy hallway, so I didn't really worry about it. Well, toward the end of the semester she shows up for office hours and asks if she can charge her phone. She didn't have a charger, she said, but she had a cable, and could she just plug her phone into my laptop? I didn't think anything of it and said sure. She got fairly flirty that session, and was starting to cross into inappropriate territory, but I played dumb and kept things focused. When we wrapped up, she unplugged her phone and said something like, "I think my phone copied some pictures to your computer. Tell me what you think." Oh boy, did her phone ever copy some pictures. There were literally hundreds of pictures of her which looked to be taken over the course of the semester, almost all of them nude. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a good long look at them that night before I deleted them. I'm only human. I had to report it to my department chair, but I told them that I'd like for us to assume it was an accident, but I wanted cover too. We had a meeting with her and she was embarrassed, but we stuck to the "it was probably an accident" line and left her most of her dignity. Surprisingly, she didn't drop. Instead, she apologized after the next class, very embarrassed, and promised it wouldn't happen again. I continued to let her come to office hours for help, but we sat in a common area instead of in my office. She ended up pulling AC, which I bumped up to AC because of the extra work she put in. I would have done the same for any student even without the pictures, so I figured it was only fair. She made a mistake, as many college kids do, and I didn't think I needed to punish her anymore. And just to be clear, she was 20 and not at all underage. I checked as soon as I realized that she could have put child porn on my laptop. Female university professor for 16 years. I've been flirted with countless times, but only outright propositioned twice. Neither time was for grades, as both students were already doing well in class. One was a 19-year-old boy who told me that he was sure he could handle a 30-year-old woman. I managed not to laugh at him, mainly because I was very fond of him. Of course, I turned both down. No consequences to them. I suppose that when they do it because they actually feel attracted to you as opposed to having ulterior motives, it's much easier to handle, because there's no actual malice in it. Yes, I was flattered rather than offended and just explained that my husband doesn't really like it when I have sex with anyone except him. Lol. My go-to if I get a proposition is to tell them to call my wife and ask her permission. So far only one has, which prompted an interesting conversation with my wife, and when she discovered just how much I've been hit on by women. Young single male high school teacher here. I don't know if I should be relieved or offended that this issue has never come up. I had a girl say she'd do anything for extra credit. Her intention was clear. I made a joke of it by responding, "Anything. Would you kill a guy?" I think she was embarrassed I didn't go for it. She dropped my class not long after. Before anyone asks if she was hot, let's just say when I was in high school she never would have given me the time of day. I was a college lecturer for 3 years in the States, during which time I was in my mid-20s. I was still young when I started, and close enough to the ages of most of the students on campus, so I made a rule to never get involved with any students so long as I had a say in their final grade. My second or third semester of teaching, I had a young woman in my class who began making heavy advances towards me. Whether it was for a passing grade or she simply wanted the D, I never found out. She would constantly make advances and would often throw me dreamy eyes and subtly lick her lips around me. I ignored it for the most part, but once she started making sexual innuendos to me in front of other students, I went straight to the department chair and told him what was going on. I was pretty worried about some allegations flying around before I spoke to him, but he assured me that I'd done the right thing, spoke to the girl, and that was the end of it. Shit was still awkward as hell around her until she graduated. After one exam, one of the students emailed me saying that she knew she had done poorly and she was willing to do anything to get her grade up. Didn't even see it sexually at all until I casually mentioned it to my family at Sunday lunch. My mom said something like, "Dumbass. That's a sex offer." I was like, really? My wife just rolled her eyes at me. Didn't mention it again. Neither did she.